We got a little bit of a window here between some pretty intense thunder showers, so I'm gonna head out to the hoop house. And luckily it's not far away. It's not a big farm with hundreds of acres. So it won't take me long to get there because I don't think it's gonna be long before the next wave comes through. We've got quite an intense series of storms between about 4 this afternoon and maybe 9 o'clock tonight. On my way out, I was thinking about the purpose of the YouTube channel that I started maybe 3 years ago now. And how appreciative I am that you all are subscribing and commenting and asking questions and hopefully learning. And I was really reflecting on the idea that, I wasn't, and I don't intend to be prescriptive. Rather, I'm hoping to just share my experience as a commercial farmer for 15 or 20 years. And hopefully allow people who are just getting into homesteading to shorten their learning curve in ways that I didn't have the opportunity to do. I did everything trial by fire and a lot of trial by error. A lot of error. That being said, I think it's important to know what you're getting into if you're homesteading. A lot of people have this kind of romantic idea of what farming and homesteading is, and it's a beautiful pastoral life, and in a lot of ways that's true. That's one of the reasons why it's so satisfying. But you have to have a certain mindset and a certain series of qualities to make it work. A lot of the things you find online or in books are all about low maintenance gardening and easy gardening, and my experience has been that just doesn't exist. There are definitely steps that you can take to make things easier and more efficient, but you're going to be working no matter what if you're going to be engaged in agriculture. It's a work heavy human endeavor. And so what I was thinking about while I was waiting for the rain to slow down just enough to get out here was that there's really never any downtime. I call this channel Nights and Weekends Homestead, but really, if I could have come up with a name that would have covered it, it would be something like All Your Free Time Homestead or Any Spare Minute Homestead. And the reality is, if that doesn't sound appealing to you, you may not be interested in homesteading. And it shouldn't sound like a chore. It shouldn't sound like something you have to do. It should sound like something that excites you. And that's the reason I do this. I don't watch sports. I'm not into cars. I don't play online poker or, a lot of the things that engage people. I don't watch TV. I do this. I'm outside all the time, essentially trying to make this place as enjoyable and beautiful, aesthetically and productively pleasing as possible. And it's a constant work in progress. This is probably the best year I've ever had, and that's due in no small part to the pandemic and the fact that everything is slowed down. Nobody's really traveling anywhere. Well, they shouldn't be. A lot of people are, but at any rate, I've definitely had more time with travel restrictions that my work has put in place, and it's showing. But there's no doubt that there is still a ton to do. I have an entire section of the annual garden you can't see on the other side of the hoop house, over there in that corner, that's needs some serious attention. It was supposed to be corn, and ended up shifting some plans and planted my corn here where the natural heat mat was, and it's doing really well. But that allowed me to kind of let that corner over there go a little bit, so I need to address that. Planted some trees here last year and kept them going as much as I could, but this little plot right here is kind of a overgrown mess right now. I'm taking comfort from the fact that all these flowers are good for the pollinators, but also want to make it a little bit more presentable and easy to access. But like I said, there's no question that I'm doing really well this year. But the reason that that's the case is because all that time that we've gained is spent out here doing this because I love it. It's fun, and it's just the way I choose to spend my time. And if that doesn't appeal to you, you might consider a different avenue, a different hobby. Maybe homesteading isn't for you, or certainly on a much smaller scale. It's definitely something to consider, and I encourage folks to really think that through and look at yourselves before you really jump off and leap into something like this. Especially if you're, thinking of making a big life change and moving and buying property and stuff. It's definitely something to consider. Make sure this is for you.
As I improved as a commercial farmer over the years, I tended toward efficiency and speed. How quickly you can accomplish a task dictates what other tasks you can do, and the more tasks you can manage, the more you can potentially sell. One tool I invested in was tomato trellis clips. These things are very handy, but also very expensive. I say that because while they may be priced very appropriately by manufacturers and retail sellers, they aren't strictly necessary for trellising. For years before I knew about these, and then for a few years before I decided the cost-benefit ratio was worthwhile enough to purchase them, I trellised tomatoes without them. One trick with trellising is how you get the plant started onto the trellis material, in this case, sisal twine. In the case of plants like peas and beans, you don't need to do much. You put something near one of those plants and it'll find a way to grab onto it. But tomatoes don't have tendrils that grab onto string. You need to train the plants to the shape of the string. You can do that with tomato trellis clips, or by wrapping the tomato around the twine. In order to do that, you need to have both ends of that twine secured. To secure the sisal twine to the tomato plant in the absence of clips, which I've decided not to replenish now that I've finally used the last of my supply from my years as a commercial farmer, I use 2 half hitches. This is a simple knot that is quick and easy to tie, and I like it because it's adjustable. I put 2 half hitches in the top of the twine as well. That knot is there to tauten or slacken the line as necessary. The bottom 2 half hitches, however, are there so the loop around the plant can be opened when necessary. Tomato plants, like all others, grow not only in height but in girth throughout the season. Actually, this is one way in which a knot is better than a clip. My tomato plants routinely burst through the tomato clips, particularly those at the bottom of the plant which I put on early in the season. By the end of August, the plant is too big for that little circle and either busts out or is constricted enough to break or be slowed in production. With half hitches, I could just make the loop bigger and allow the trunk to continue to expand. Once both ends of the twine are secured and the line itself still has some slack, I wrap the plant around the twine. I'm careful not to break any branches and always make sure the twine goes under a leaf branch, not a fruit branch. It isn't necessary to go around a lot, certainly not under each lateral. All you need to do is ensure the tomato plant doesn't have to do the work of standing erect. The string is essentially a post for it to lean upon. One other thing to remember, get yourself into the habit of always wrapping the same way. I don't know if it's like this everywhere, say in the southern hemisphere, but here in Maine, given a choice, climbing plants tend to move clockwise around supports. I follow that for my tomatoes and cucumbers. Once the tomato is set, I go to the top of the twine and use the 2 half hitches there to tighten the line a bit. Then it's on to the next plant.